Single dad defended a woman at a coffee shop. Not knowing she was a billionaire who wanted him, Marcus Reed had exactly $7.43 in his wallet the morning his entire life changed forever. He knew the exact amount because he had counted it 3 times the night before, sitting at the kitchen table after his 6-year-old daughter Sophie had fallen asleep, trying to figure out how to stretch it until his next paycheck arrived on Friday. It was Tuesday. The numbers never worked out, no matter how many times he rearranged them in his mind. But Marcus was used to numbers not working out. He had been used to a lot of things not working out, ever since his wife walked out 2 years ago and left him holding a toddler, a pile of debt, and a heart that had forgotten what it felt like to hope. He stopped at the coffee shop that morning not to buy coffee. He couldn't afford it, but because Sophie had asked him to get her a hot chocolate before school, and there was something about the way she said please, with those wide brown eyes looking up at him, that made a man forget the mathematics of survival entirely. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one small act of courage can rewrite a person's destiny, like this video, drop a comment, share this story, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Stories like this one exist to remind us all that goodness still lives in the world. The coffee shop was warm and busy, smelling of cinnamon and roasted beans, the kind of place that felt like a hug from the inside. Marcus held Sophie's hand as they joined the line, and he was quietly rehearsing how to smile at the cashier while handing over nearly half of everything he owned, when he heard it, a sharp, ugly voice cutting through the gentle morning noise like a blade through silk. A man in an expensive suit was standing at the counter, red-faced and trembling with the particular rage of someone who had never been told no in his entire life. In front of him, looking pale and startled, stood a woman. She was dressed simply, a cream blouse and dark trousers, her auburn hair falling softly around her face. She had accidentally bumped into the man while reaching for her order, spilling a small amount of his coffee onto his sleeve, and now he was berating her in front of everyone in a voice loud enough to silence the entire room. He called her clumsy, careless, said she clearly had no idea how to conduct herself in public, said people like her should stay home. The words were vicious and deliberate, designed to humiliate, and they were working. The woman's face had gone the color of chalk, and no one in that crowded shop was saying a single word, except Sophie tugged Marcus's hand and whispered, "Daddy, that man is being very mean." Marcus Reed, who had $7.43 to his name and a mountain of problems that would have crushed a lesser man, stepped forward anyway. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten the man or make a scene. He simply positioned himself beside the woman, looked the suited man calmly in the eyes, and said that there was no reason on earth to speak to another person that way, that accidents happen, and that the most revealing thing about any person is how they behave when they believe they have power over someone else. The coffee shop held its breath. The suited man sputtered and blustered and eventually grabbed his cup and left, throwing one last poisonous look over his shoulder, but he left, and the silence he left behind was the kind that feels like exhaling after holding your breath for far too long. Marcus turned to the woman and asked quietly if she was all right. She looked at him for a long moment, as though she was seeing something she hadn't expected to find, and she said she was fine, thank you, and smiled. It was a small smile, a little shaken at the edges, but genuine. Marcus nodded, took Sophie back to the counter, ordered one small hot chocolate, counted out the exact change with the practiced steadiness of a man who had done it 1,000 times, and left without once looking back to see if anyone had noticed what he had done. He didn't do it to be noticed. That was the whole point. What Marcus did not know, what he could not have known, was that the woman's name was Elena Voss. What he did not know was that she had arrived in this city the previous day from across the country, specifically to evaluate a failing business acquisition, which meant that the 3 people she had brought with her all recognized her instantly, even when the suited man had not. What he could not have guessed, standing there in his worn jacket and careful shoes, was that Elena Voss was worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 billion, that she sat on the boards of 7 major companies, that she had built everything she owned from a single failing flower shop her mother left her at 22, and that she was one of the most powerful women in the entire country. He simply saw a person being hurt by someone who should have known better. He simply stepped in because it was the right thing to do. But Elena had spent 15 years surrounded by people who wanted something from her. She could identify performance and calculation from a mile away. She had watched that man leave, and she had watched Marcus turn back to his daughter and carefully count his change, and she had seen something she had almost stopped believing existed. A person who helped another person without any expectation of reward, without any awareness of what that help might be worth. She left the coffee shop 2 minutes after him, but she didn't stop thinking about him. It took her 3 days to find him. She had resources most people couldn't imagine, but she also moved carefully because she understood that what she was feeling was fragile and unusual and deserved to be treated with extraordinary care. She found out that his name was Marcus Reed, that he worked double shifts at a logistics warehouse, that he was raising his daughter alone, that his apartment building had a broken heater that management had been ignoring for 6 weeks, that he had once been accepted into an engineering program but dropped out when his wife became pregnant because someone had to keep the family afloat, and that he had never once, in any record she could find, asked anyone for anything. She walked into the logistics warehouse on a Thursday afternoon, and Marcus nearly dropped the clipboard he was carrying when he recognized her. She was calmer now than she had been in the coffee shop, composed and certain. And she told him directly that she was looking to fund a new infrastructure consulting division and that she needed someone who understood both the technical and human sides of operations, someone with integrity, and that she had spent 3 days trying to find someone better qualified and had failed. She told him the salary. He asked her to repeat it. She did. Marcus stood there for a long moment, holding his clipboard, and the only thing he could think to say was that she didn't have to do this. She told him she knew she didn't have to. She told him that was precisely the point. Sophie got her heater fixed that weekend. Marcus started his new position the following Monday, and Elena Voss, who had built an empire by knowing exactly what she was looking at, had never once in her life been more certain of a single decision. If this story reached into your chest and squeezed something there, if it reminded you that goodness is still real, and that ordinary people do extraordinary things every single day, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to believe in people again, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support keeps these stories alive. Before we close, drop a comment below and tell us, would you have stepped in like Marcus did? We read every single one. Some people spend their whole lives waiting to be rescued by something grand, something dramatic and unmistakable. But the truth, the quiet and powerful truth, is that most lives are changed by one ordinary Tuesday morning, one moment of choosing courage over comfort, one stranger who sees another person being made small and decides, without calculation, without reward, without hesitation, that it simply cannot stand.